I signed the custody agreement with a smile that made my ex-husband's lawyer shift uncomfortably in her seat, but Marcus just looked smug. He thought he'd won. Again. "You're sure about this, Mrs. Chen?" the mediator asked, her pen hovering over the final page. "Full physical and legal custody to Mr. Chen? You understand that means the children will reside with him permanently, and all major decisions?" "I understand perfectly." I didn't take my eyes off Marcus as I spoke. He wants them so badly he can have them. All of them. Marcus's smile widened. His new wife, fiancée. Sienna squeezed his hand from where she sat beside him, her diamond ring catching the fluorescent light. The same ring that should have been mine. Was mine, actually, in my previous life. He'd pawned my grandmother's jewelry to buy it. "We just want what's best for the kids," Sienna said with that saccharine voice she used around other people. Not the voice she'd used when she called me a dried-up has-been 6 months from now, or rather, 6 months from my first death. "I'm sure you do." I initialed each page with careful precision. 7 years. I'd spent 7 years in my first life believing that fighting for custody was fighting for my children. 7 years of Marcus crying poverty while driving a Tesla. 7 years of him claiming he could barely afford $500 a month for 3 kids while taking Sienna to Bali, to Paris, to fucking Santorini. 7 years of being called a bitter ex, a vindictive bitch, a woman who couldn't let go. Then I'd died. Heart attack at 39, alone in my apartment, while my kids were at their father's for the weekend. They'd found me 3 days later. And then I'd woken up in this courthouse 6 months after the divorce was finalized, at Marcus's custody hearing. My second chance. "The child support calculations," Marcus's lawyer said, sliding a folder across the table. "Based on Mrs. Chen retaining full custody and Mr. Chen's income of $75 per year..." "Stop." I held up my hand. "There's been a change. I'm agreeing to his petition. Full custody goes to Marcus." The room went silent. Marcus recovered first. What?" "You want the kids. You've been saying for months that I'm an unfit mother, that you can provide better, that Sienna would be an amazing stepmom." I looked at Sienna, who'd gone pale. "So prove it. They're yours." "Lily, you can't be serious." My lawyer, Janet, hissed in my ear. "We talked about this. You have a strong case." "I'm completely serious." I turned to the mediator. "What happens to child support if he has full custody?" The mediator blinked. "Well, then the calculations would be reversed. Mrs. Chen would owe support based on her income." "And what's my income?" I asked sweetly. Marcus was frowning now, his lawyer typing frantically on her laptop. "According to the financial disclosures, you're currently making $145,000 per year as a senior product manager." "That's correct." I'd negotiated. Hard for that salary. Harder than I'd negotiated for anything in my first life. "So what would my child support obligation be? For 3 children in his full custody?" The typing got faster. Marcus's smile had completely vanished. "Well," his lawyer said slowly, "Washington State uses an income shares model for 3 children, with Mrs. Chen's income at $145,000 and Mr. Chen's at $75,000. The base obligation would be approximately $2,800 per month." $2,800? Marcus's voice cracked. That's more than half my take-home pay." "Actually," I said, pulling out my own folder, I'd done my homework this time. "I believe you'll find there are additional factors. I'll be paying for their health insurance through my employer, so that's covered. But there's also the matter of your income." "We already disclosed my income," Marcus snapped. $75,000. "From your W-2, yes. But you also have that consulting business on the side, don't you? Chen Consulting Solutions, the one you incorporated 2 years ago?" His face went white. "That's barely making anything." "Really? Because I have records here showing deposits of approximately $4,000 per month into a business account. That's $8,000 annually, which brings your total income to $120,000, not $70,000. I slid the papers across the table. I had an accountant look into it. Funny how much you can find in public records when you actually look. In my first life, I'd never thought to check. I'd been too overwhelmed, too focused on just surviving. But I'd had a decade to think about it while dying alone in my apartment, a decade of my consciousness scattered across time before I'd snapped back to this moment. I'd used that knowledge well. Where did you get these? His lawyer grabbed the documents, her face growing tighter with each page. Public records, corporate filings, bank statements that were part of discovery but mysteriously never made it into your financial declaration. I looked at the mediator. I believe failure to disclose income in family court proceedings is considered fraud? The mediator's expression was carefully neutral, but I saw her make a note. That would be a matter for the court to determine? So let's recalculate, I said. My income is $145,000. His actual income is $123,000. 3 children, full custody to him. What's the new number? More typing. The sound of Sienna's breathing getting faster. Marcus looking like he might throw up. Approximately $2,100 per month, the lawyer said faintly, plus retroactive adjustment for the undisclosed income from the date of divorce, which was 6 months ago, I added helpfully. So that's $12,600 in back support, plus the monthly going forward. I can't afford that, Marcus shouted. I have a mortgage, I have car payments. You have a Tesla, I said calmly. You have a 4-bedroom house in Bellevue. You took Sienna to Paris last month. I saw the photos on Facebook. You just put in a pool. Surely, you can afford to actually take care of your children. This is insane, Sienna said, finding her voice. She's trying to trap you. Trap him into taking custody of his own children? I raised an eyebrow. The children he's been telling everyone I'm keeping from him? The children he swore he could provide a better life for? Mrs. Chen, the mediator said carefully, I want to make sure you understand what you're agreeing to. This means the children will live with their father full-time. Your parenting time would be reduced to a standard visitation schedule, every other weekend and Wednesday evenings, I recited, plus alternating holidays and 4 weeks in the summer. I'm aware, that's fine. It was more than fine. It was perfect. In my first life, I'd burned myself out trying to be everything. Working full-time and taking care of 3 kids mostly alone, because Marcus's $500 a month barely covered groceries. I'd had no time for myself, no energy for my career, no bandwidth for anything but survival. I'd been passed over for promotions because I had to leave early for soccer practice. I'd lost friendships because I was always too exhausted to go out. I'd aged a decade in 7 years. And my kids, they'd learned that mom was stressed and tired and snapping at them, while dad was fun and relaxed because he only had them 2 weekends a month. They'd started to prefer his house, started to resent me. By the time I died, my oldest barely spoke to me. Not this time. This time, I was going to be the fun parent, the one who showed up to every other weekend refreshed and ready to actually enjoy them, the one who took them on adventures during my 4 weeks, not just shuffled them between activities, the one who could say yes to spontaneous ice cream because I wasn't calculating whether it would push me into overdraft. And Marcus was about to learn what it actually cost to raise 3 kids. I need to consult with my client, Marcus's lawyer said, but Marcus was already shaking his head. No, we're not doing this. I withdraw my petition for custody. You can't just withdraw it, I said. The court has already scheduled a hearing. You've been telling everyone I'm an unfit mother. You filed allegations of neglect. So, let's go to court. Let's have a judge examine both our homes, both our lifestyles, both our abilities to provide. I'm happy to proceed. I wasn't bluffing. I'd spent the last 6 months preparing. I documented everything, every expensive purchase he'd made, every trip, every late child support payment from the first arrangement. I'd gotten statements from his neighbors about the noise from his parties. I'd recorded every phone call where he'd canceled his weekends because something came up. Or, I continued, you can accept my agreement to give you full custody, and we can sign today. Your choice. The silence stretched out. I could see the calculations running through his head. Pride versus practicality. The victory of winning custody versus the reality of $2,100 a month. We need a break, his lawyer finally said. 15 minutes. They huddled in the hallway. Through the glass walls of the conference room, I could see Sienna gesturing wildly, Marcus with his head in his hands. Janet touched my arm. Lily, I know you're angry, but this is strategic, I finished. This is strategic. Trust me, Janet." She didn't look convinced, but she'd been my lawyer through the divorce. She'd seen how much I'd changed in the last 6 months, how focused I'd become, how calculated. In my first life, I'd been a mess, crying through depositions, agreeing to bad terms just to make it end. This time, I'd been cold as ice. Every decision measured, every move planned. It helped that I knew exactly how things would play out if I didn't intervene. Marcus came back looking like he'd eaten glass. "Fine, I'll keep the current arrangement, but I want more time with the kids." No, I didn't even pretend to consider it. You filed for full custody, you go to trial and risk a judge giving it to you, or you accept my offer. Those are your only options. This is blackmail. This is co-parenting. I smiled. You wanted to be their primary parent. I'm saying yes. Unless you're admitting you only filed for custody to hurt me, and you don't actually want the responsibility. The mediator was watching this like a tennis match, her pen still poised. "The offer expires when I walk out of this room," I added. "I'm happy to go to trial. Are you?" In my first life, Marcus had withdrawn his custody petition at the last minute too, right before we would have gone before a judge. His lawyer had probably told him his case was weak, but he'd accomplished his goal, making me spend thousands on legal fees, making me look like the vindictive ex fighting against a father who just wanted time with his kids. This time, I was calling his bluff. "We'll maintain the current arrangement," his lawyer said quickly. "Mrs. Chen, thank you for your flexibility." "Excellent." I stood up. "Janet, send over the paperwork to formalize it." I was halfway to the door when Marcus said, "You're going to regret this." I turned back, and for just a moment, I let him see something in my eyes. Something cold and knowing. "No, Marcus, I'm really not." That night, I took myself out to dinner. Real dinner. At a nice restaurant, not the drive-thru I'd been living on in my first life. I ordered wine. I ordered dessert. I sat there for 2 hours with a book, and my phone stayed in my purse. No texts asking when I'd be home to put the kids to bed. No calls about homework that needed signing. No guilt about leaving them with a babysitter because they were with their father tonight, like they were every Tuesday and Thursday now per our custody agreement. I'd fought against this schedule in my first life, wanting more time. This time, I'd suggested it myself. Let Marcus have his weeknight dinners and homework. Battles. Let him figure out that our youngest still had nightmares, and our middle child refused to eat anything green, and our oldest needed help with fractions. Let him be tired. My phone buzzed around 9 p.m. "Marcus." "Emma won't stop crying. What do I do?" Emma was 7. She cried because she was scared of the dark and needed her nightlight in a specific position, and her stuffed rabbit had to be on the left side of her pillow, not the right. I knew this because I'd spent 7 years figuring it out. I took another sip of wine and texted back. "Figure it out. You're her father." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "This is ridiculous. You're her mother and you're her parent too. Handle it." I turned my phone to Do Not Disturb and ordered another glass of wine. The next morning, I woke up at 7 a.m., a full hour later than my usual 6 a.m. in my first life. No small bodies jumping on my bed, no breakfast to make, no lunches to pack, no fighting over whether it was cold enough for a jacket. I made myself coffee. Real coffee, not gas station sludge. I did yoga. I showered without anyone barging in. I blow-dried my hair. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. 6 months ago, which was also somehow years ago in another life, I'd been a ghost. Hollow-eyed, 20 pounds heavier from stress eating, my hair in a perpetual messy bun because who had time for anything else? Now I looked alive again. My phone had 17 texts from Marcus, ranging from panicked questions about Emma's meltdown to angry accusations that I was being a bad mother. I deleted them all and texted, "The kids are with you Tuesday and Thursday nights, per our agreement. This is your parenting time." Parent? Then I went to work. My boss, Karen, stopped by my desk around 10 a.m. "Lily, you have a minute?" In my first life, this would have been the meeting where she told me I was being passed over for the senior director role. I was too distracted, she'd said, not present enough. They needed someone who could fully commit. Of course. I followed her to her office, my portfolio already prepared. "I wanted to talk to you about the senior director position," Karen said, settling into her chair. We've been impressed with your work lately. Thank you. I didn't fidget, didn't over-explain, just waited. You've really come into your own these last few months. The Henderson project, that was stellar work, and I've noticed you're more available, more engaged, because I wasn't running out at 3 p.m. for pickups, wasn't distracted during meetings because I was worried about who'd watch the kids if one got sick, wasn't exhausted from being up all night with nightmares. I'm able to give work the focus it deserves, I said simply. Well, it shows. The job is yours if you want it. 20% raise, equity package, and a seat at the leadership table. I wanted to cry. In my first life, I'd never made it past senior manager. I'd plateaued, watching younger colleagues leap past me while I juggled school pickups and sick days, and the never-ending guilt of being a working mother. I want it, I said. Thank you, Karen. You've earned it, she smiled. The official announcement will be Monday, but I wanted you to know first. Congratulations, Director Chen. Director Chen, $175,000 a year, which meant my child support obligation was about to go up. I smiled all the way back to my desk. That night was Friday, which meant the kids would be with me for the weekend. I picked them up at 6 p.m. from Marcus's house, the house he'd bought with Sienna, the one I'd never lived in. In my first life, I'd hated pulling up to this place, hated seeing the life he'd built without me. This time, I just felt sorry for him. Emma ran out first, her backpack bouncing, tears streaking her face. Mommy? Hey, baby? I caught her in a hug. Rough week? Daddy yelled at me, she sobbed. I didn't mean to spill the juice. It was an accident. I know, sweetheart. Accidents happen. I rubbed her back, catching Marcus's eye over her head. He looked haggard. Good. My oldest, Zoe, came out next, 14 and already perfecting the teenage slouch. Can we go? Please? Where's your brother? Inside playing video games. Dad said he has to finish his level first. I walked past Marcus into his house without asking permission. Sienna was in the kitchen, a glass of wine already in her hand, despite it only being 6 p.m. She looked up when I entered, her expression guarded. I'm picking up my kids, I said pleasantly. Ryan, my 11-year-old appeared from the living room, controller still in hand. Mom, I'm in the middle. Save it. We're going. But Dad said, I don't care what Dad said. It's my time now. Let's go. Marcus appeared behind me. He's almost done. And you're almost finished with your parenting time? I kept my voice light, friendly even. See you Sunday at 6? In the car, Emma finally stopped crying. Zoe scrolled on her phone in the front seat, while Ryan peppered me with questions about his game from the back. Mom, can we get pizza? Ryan asked. In my first life, I would have said no. We couldn't afford it. I had to cook something healthy, something that would stretch for the week, something that wouldn't eat into the budget. Sure, I said. Any toppings you want? Really? All 3 kids perked up. Really? And tomorrow we're going to the science center. Yes, Ryan fist pumped. Can I bring Alyssa? Zoe asked, already texting. If her parents say yes. We got pizza. Extra large, with breadsticks and dessert pizza. We ate it in our apartment, a nice 2-bedroom I'd rented in a good neighborhood, not the cramped 1-bedroom I'd barely afforded in my first life. The kids piled onto the couch for a movie, and I sat with them, actually watching instead of doing dishes or laundry or catching up on work emails. Mom, Emma whispered during a quiet scene. Yeah, baby. I like weekends with you better. My heart clenched. Oh, yeah? Why's that? Because you're happy. I pulled her closer, kissed the top of her head. I am happy, very happy. And I was. God help me, I was happier than I'd been in years, even though I saw my kids less. Even though technically I'd lost custody in the traditional sense, but I hadn't lost them. I'd just restructured. The weekend flew by. Science Center on Saturday, where we spent 4 hours and I didn't check my phone once. Sunday morning we made pancakes, real ones, from scratch with chocolate chips and whipped cream. In the afternoon, we went to the park. My phone rang around 2 p.m. Marcus. Hey, Lily, any chance you can keep them tonight? Sienna and I have plans. No. What? Come on, it's just one night. Marcus, you have them every Tuesday and Thursday, plus every other weekend. That's your parenting time. Mine ends at 6 p.m. today. Are you seriously going to be this petty? I'm not being petty. I'm following our agreement, the one you insisted on. I watched Zoe push Emma on the swing. You wanted this custody arrangement? These are your days. I didn't want... He stopped himself. Fine. Whatever. Bring them back at 6. I did. Exactly at 6. Not 5:58, not 6:02. 6 on the dot. Sienna answered the door this time. She looked tired. Hi. Hi. I handed her Emma's backpack. She's got a project due Friday, needs poster board. Ryan has a dentist appointment Wednesday at 4. I emailed you the details. Zoe needs new soccer cleats size 7. Wait, I thought you paid for their stuff. I pay child support, which covers general expenses. Extras like soccer equipment, that's on the custodial parent. I smiled. Check the parenting plan if you're unclear. I'd made sure that clause was in there. In my first life, I'd paid for everything. School supplies, clothes, sports fees, medical copays. Marcus's $500 barely covered food. This time, the agreement was crystal clear. The custodial parent was responsible for day-to-day expenses. Child support was a contribution, not a complete coverage. Soccer is $200 a season, Sienna said faintly, plus cleats, shin guards, and travel fees if they make the select team. I was already walking back to my car. Have a great week! The text started an hour later. This is ridiculous. You're punishing me through the kids. Sienna's upset. You're being selfish. I responded only once. I agreed to give you full custody. You won. Congratulations. Then I muted the conversation and poured myself a glass of wine. Work got busier after my promotion. More responsibility, more meetings, more travel. In my first life, each business trip had been a nightmare of guilt and logistics. Finding someone to watch the kids, coordinating with Marcus, who always had some excuse why he couldn't take them, paying a fortune for childcare. This time, when my boss asked if I could go to a conference in Austin, I just said yes. It's the week of the 15th, Karen said. 3 days, Wednesday through Friday. I pulled up my calendar. The kids are with Marcus that week anyway. Perfect timing. It was that easy. On the plane to Austin, I sat in business class, paid for by the company, and read a book. An actual novel, for pleasure, not a parenting guide or a work manual. The woman next to me struck up a conversation, and we talked about normal things, travel, careers, the conference. She didn't ask if I had kids until we were landing. It felt like a revelation, being a whole person first, a mother second. The conference was incredible. I networked, I learned, I stayed out late at dinners without worrying about getting home for bedtime. I woke up rested and ready, not dragging myself out of bed after a kid had nightmares. On the second night, Marcus called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. What? Ryan broke his arm. My stomach dropped. What? How? He fell off the monkey bars at recess. Sienna just took him to the ER. Is he okay? I was already looking up flights. He's fine. It's not that bad, but look, I can't leave work right now, and Sienna's there alone with him, and Emma's having a meltdown because she saw him crying. Where's Zoe? Still at school. Soccer practice. Someone needs to pick her up at 6. I looked at my watch. 4:30 p.m. Texas time, 2:30 p.m. in Seattle. Marcus, you're their custodial parent. This is your responsibility. I know, but I'm in a meeting I can't miss. Then miss it. Your son broke his arm. Lily, please? No. And I meant it. In my first life, I would have dropped everything. Missed work, rushed to the hospital, handled everything while Marcus continued with his day. You have custody, you handle it, call your mom, call a neighbor, figure it out. You're unbelievable. Ryan has your insurance, right? Since he's on your plan now? A pause. Yes. Good. Then you're all set. Text me updates. I hung up. My hands were shaking. The woman I'd been talking to at the bar, another conference attendee, raised her eyebrows. Everything okay? My son broke his arm. Oh my God, are you leaving? I took a breath. No, his father's got it handled. She nodded slowly, understanding something I was only beginning to fully grasp. Good for you. I got texts throughout the evening. Ryan was fine. A simple fracture cast for 6 weeks. Marcus had to leave work to pick up Zoe. Sienna was stressed. Emma was still crying. I sent one text to Ryan. One. Love you, buddy. Dad says you were very brave. Can't wait to sign your cast this weekend. That was it. The rest of the conference, I was fully present. I made connections that would matter for years. I learned strategies that would shape my department. I was offered a consulting opportunity that could add $30,000 a year. On the flight home, I finally let myself feel it. The guilt, the worry, the voice that said I should have been there. But then I remembered my first life. Remembered missing this conference because Emma had a cold and Marcus couldn't handle it. Remembered watching my career stagnate while Marcus's thrived because he never had to make those choices. Remembered dying alone because I'd burned myself out being everything to everyone. The guilt didn't disappear, but it got quieter. I picked up the kids that Friday, and Ryan proudly showed me his cast. Dad said I was the bravest kid in the ER. I bet you were. I examined it carefully. Does it hurt? A little, but I got to miss homework. Zoe rolled her eyes. He's been milking it all week. That weekend, we kept it low-key. Movies, games, pizza. I signed Ryan's cast first. To my brave boy. Love, Mom. On Sunday, when I dropped them off, Sienna looked exhausted. Everything okay? I asked, professionally pleasant. It's been a long week. I can imagine. Broken bones are tough. And expensive. She laughed, but it was brittle. The ER copay was $200, and the orthopedist wants another $150 for the follow-up, and insurance is being weird about covering it all. That's rough, I said sympathetically, but at least you have good insurance through Marcus's work, right? I guess. It's just a lot. I didn't point out that this was exactly the kind of expense that came with being the custodial parent. Didn't mention that in my first life, I'd paid for every ER visit, every specialist, every unexpected medical cost, while Marcus's $500 a month barely kept the lights on. I just smiled and said, "Welcome to parenting." The months rolled by. I excelled at work, got nominated for a leadership award, was invited to speak at an industry conference. My salary climbed to $190,000 after bonuses, which meant my child support obligation went up to $2,400 a month. Marcus's texts became more frequent, more desperate. This is too much. I can't afford this. You need to take them more. This isn't fair. I responded rarely, and only with facts. The custody agreement is what you asked for. Child support is calculated by state formula. If you'd like to modify the arrangement, you can file a motion with the court. I knew he wouldn't. Because filing would mean admitting he couldn't handle it, admitting he'd been wrong. And Marcus would never do that. Instead, he started cutting corners. I noticed it when I picked up the kids. Emma's clothes were getting tight. She'd grown, but no one had bought her new ones. Ryan's cast was decorated by school friends, but he mentioned that Dad said they couldn't afford the fancy waterproof one. Zoe asked if she could keep some clothes at my place because Dad keeps forgetting to do laundry. I didn't say anything to Marcus, just quietly replaced their wardrobes, bought the supplies they needed, made sure my place had everything they wanted. "Mom," Zoe said one Friday night, "can I ask you something?" "Always." "Why don't you live with us anymore? Like, at Dad's house?" The question I'd been dreading. "Dad and I aren't married anymore, honey. You know that." "Yeah, but you could still live near us. Some of my friends' parents are divorced, but they live on the same street." "Is that something you'd want?" She shrugged, but I could see it mattered. "I guess it would be easier. Going back and forth is kind of annoying. I can understand that." I chose my words carefully. "But honey, the reason you're going back and forth so much is because Dad wanted you to live with him most of the time. That was his choice. He said you didn't want us." The words hit like a physical blow. I set down the dish I was washing very carefully. "He said what?" "That you wanted to focus on your career, so you didn't fight for custody." I turned to face her fully. She was staring at her phone, but her shoulders were tense. "Zoe, look at me." She did, reluctantly. "Your dad filed for full custody. He said I was a bad mother and he could do better. I agreed to give him what he asked for. Do you understand the difference? But you didn't fight." "I didn't fight because he was going to lose, and I didn't want to drag you guys through a court battle where you'd have to testify and choose sides. I agreed because I believed he genuinely wanted to be your primary parent." I paused. "Was I wrong?" Zoe looked away. He's always stressed. He yells a lot. And Sienna? She trailed off. Sienna what? She's not mean or anything, but she's not like mom level, you know? She tries, but... Zoe shrugged again. It's different. Different how? You remember things, like how Emma needs her nightlight just right, or that Ryan doesn't like his food touching. Sienna has to be reminded, like, every time. Because I'd spent years learning those things, because I'd been there for every nightmare, every meltdown, every small detail that made up a person. Sienna was learning on the job, and it showed. Well, I said carefully, being a parent is hard work, especially when you're doing it most of the time. Is that why you seem happier? Zoe asked. Because you only have to do it some of the time now? God, kids were perceptive. I'm happier because I'm less stressed. I said honestly, when I had you guys all the time, I was overwhelmed. Working full-time and taking care of 3 kids alone is really, really hard. Now I get to focus on my job during the week and focus on you guys on weekends. It's better balance. So you're happier without us? Her voice was small. No, baby. I'm happier because I'm not drowning anymore. And that means when I am with you, I can actually enjoy it, instead of just surviving it. I pulled her into a hug. I love you guys more than anything. That never changed. What changed is that I take better care of myself now, which makes me a better mom when you're here. She hugged me back, hard. Dad's not a better dad when we're there. No? He's just tired and annoyed, like we're in the way. My heart broke for her. For all of them. This was the part I'd hoped wouldn't happen, but knew it would. The part where Marcus realized that custody wasn't a prize, it was a responsibility. I'm sorry, honey. It's not your fault, but it was in a way. I'd known this would happen, had counted on it even. I'd handed him the rope and watched him hang himself with it, except my kids were the ones getting hurt. That night, after they were all asleep, I sat at my kitchen table and stared at my phone. I could fix this. One call to my lawyer, one modification to the agreement. I could take them back, go back to the old arrangement, go back to drowning. I thought about my first life. Thought about dying at 39, alone, having sacrificed everything, and ended up with nothing. My kids had barely mourned me. They were so used to being at Marcus's by then that it was barely a disruption. I thought about Zoe's words, "You seem happier." I thought about Emma saying, "I like weekends with you better because you're happy." I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my laptop, started writing an email to my lawyer, then deleted it. Started again. Deleted again. Finally, I wrote, "Janet, can we add a clause to the parenting plan requiring family therapy? I want to make sure we're all adjusting well to the arrangement." It wasn't taking them back, but it was something. A way to monitor, to support, to make sure they were okay without completely undoing everything I'd built. She responded the next morning. "Good idea. I'll draft something and send it over for Marcus to approve." He fought it, of course, said therapy was unnecessary, that the kids were fine, that I was being controlling. I didn't budge. "The kids are mentioning stress at your house. I want to make sure we're all supporting them through this transition. If you won't agree to therapy, I'll file a motion to modify custody based on their statements." That got his attention. "You're threatening me?" "I'm suggesting therapy." He agreed. The therapist, Dr. Sarah Kim, met with all of us separately first, then together. Emma talked about missing me. Ryan talked about how Dad was always busy. Zoe talked about feeling like a burden. In our joint session, Dr. Kim addressed Marcus directly. "It sounds like you're struggling with the demands of primary custody." "I'm fine," Marcus said tightly. "It's just an adjustment." Ryan mentioned you've been working longer hours. Emma says you miss her school events. Zoe feels like she has to parent her younger siblings when you're unavailable. Sienna shifted uncomfortably. I stayed quiet. "I'm doing my best," Marcus snapped. "I'm sure you are. But your best might not be enough right now. Have you considered a more balanced arrangement?" "We have an arrangement. Lily agreed to it." "I did," I confirmed, "because you filed for full custody and I wanted to give you what you asked for." Dr. Kim looked between us. "So you'd be open to modification?" "If Marcus asks for it, sure." I kept my voice neutral. "I want what's best for the kids." Marcus said nothing. The sessions continued weekly. The kids started to open up more. Marcus started to look more haggard, and then, 6 months after the custody agreement was finalized, I got a text from an unknown number. "You need to take your kids back. This is Sienna." I stared at the message for a long moment before responding. "Excuse me, Marcus is falling apart. We can't do this anymore. You need to take them. The custody arrangement is what Marcus requested. If he'd like to modify it, he can file with the court." "Don't be a bitch about this. We're drowning. The child support is killing us, and the kids are a full-time job. We can't afford this." I almost laughed. "Welcome to what I did for years on $500 a month." "That's not the same thing." "You're right. I was doing it alone. You have Marcus. Please, I'm asking nicely. And I'm saying no. Not unless Marcus files for modification." "He won't. He's too proud." "Then I guess you're stuck." She called me a string of names that would have made me cry in my first life. This time I just blocked the number and went back to my book. 2 weeks later, Marcus asked me to coffee. We met at a Starbucks halfway between our places. He looked terrible. Weight loss, dark circles, a tremor in his hands as he stirred his coffee. "I want to modify the custody agreement," he said without preamble. "Okay, what are you thinking?" "Back to the old arrangement. You have them primarily. I get every other weekend." "And child support?" He flinched. "Back to what I was paying before." $500 a month for 3 kids? I shook my head. "No. Lily, I can't afford—" "You'll pay what the calculator says. If I have primary custody, you'll owe about $1,800 a month based on our incomes." "That's insane." "That's the formula. The same formula that said I owed 24 tahins when you had custody." I'm drowning here. I drowned for years, Marcus, on $500 a month. I took a sip of my coffee. "You want to know what's really funny? You could have had this from the beginning. If you just paid reasonable child support and been an active parent, we would have had a decent co-parenting relationship. But you wanted to win. You wanted to punish me. I wanted my kids. You wanted to hurt me. And you did. In my first..." I stopped myself. "You hurt me, but I'm not hurt anymore. And now you want me to save you from the consequences of your own choices. So you're saying no?" "I'm saying I'll agree to a modification. But my terms. You pay $1,800 a month. You take them every other weekend, no cancellations. You attend all school events and parent-teacher conferences. You pay half of all medical, dental, and extracurricular expenses. And therapy continues. That's non-negotiable. Take it or leave it." He took it, filed the papers the next week. The judge approved it without even a hearing. Both parties in agreement, modification in the best interest of the children. And just like that, I had my kids back. But this time, it was different. This time I had money, had energy, had help. I'd used some of my raise to hire a part-time nanny for the after-school hours. Had boundaries. Marcus's weekends were his weekends, no exceptions. And I'd built a life that didn't fall apart when they were gone. I'd also built resentment. Not at the kids. Never at the kids. But at Marcus, yes. At the system that had let him get away with minimal support for so long. At every person who'd ever called me vindictive for expecting him to actually parent. And then my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. "Ms. Chen, this is Carol from the Washington State Division of Child Support Enforcement." My stomach dropped. "Yes? We're calling because we've been trying to reach Marcus Chen regarding his child support account. He's fallen behind on payments, and we haven't been able to reach him. As the custodial parent, we wanted to inform you that we're beginning enforcement proceedings." "Enforcement proceedings?" "Yes, ma'am. He's currently $7,200 in arrears. Under state law, we can garnish wages, suspend his driver's license, place liens on property, or pursue contempt charges." 4 months. He'd missed 4 months of payments already. What happens now? We'll continue our enforcement efforts. In the meantime, the arrears will continue to accrue interest at 12% annually. If you'd like to pursue additional remedies through the court, you can file a contempt motion independently. After I hung up, I sat very still. $7,200, plus interest, plus the ongoing monthly obligation he wasn't paying. In my first life, I'd begged him for the $500. Had spent hours on the phone with DCS trying to get them to enforce the order. Had watched him buy new cars and go on trips while I struggled to afford groceries. This time, I had money. Didn't need his support to survive. But the principal, I called Janet. File for contempt, I said, and request makeup payments, attorney's fees, and interest. Lily, if he can't pay, then maybe he should have thought about that before filing for full custody and lying about his income. She filed. The court date was set for 6 weeks out. In the meantime, Marcus's calls became more frequent. Lily, please, I lost my job. You got fired? Laid off. The economy... When? 3 months ago. Right when the support payments stopped. Have you filed for unemployment? Yes, but it's not enough. Have you told DCS about the income change? I tried, but they said I still owe the arrears. You do. Income changes don't affect what you already owe. I kept my voice professional. Marcus, you need a lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer. Then maybe you should have kept up with your payments when you had a job. You're really going to do this? Take me to court when I'm already down? You took me to court for full custody when you knew I could barely afford the lawyer's fees. So, yes, I'm really going to do this. He showed up to the contempt hearing without a lawyer, wearing a suit that was slightly too big. He'd lost more weight. Sienna wasn't with him. The judge was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes. She reviewed the file, then looked at Marcus. Mr. Chen, your son $200 in arrears on child support. The order requires $800 monthly, and you haven't paid since March. Explain. Your Honor, I lost my job. I'm on unemployment. I physically can't pay that much. Did you file a motion to modify support when your income changed? No, I didn't know I needed to. You're required to maintain payments until a modification is granted. Unemployment is not automatic grounds for suspension. She flipped through the papers. I also see you previously had full custody, and Ms. Chen was paying you $2,400 monthly. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. And you requested the modification back to her having primary custody? Yes. Why? Marcus shifted. It wasn't working out. Meaning? I couldn't handle it. The kids, the schedule, the expenses. But you filed for full custody initially. I thought I could. You thought you could, or you wanted to avoid paying support. The judge's tone was sharp. Marcus's lawyer would have objected here if he'd had one. Instead, he just stammered. The judge looked at me. Ms. Chen, what are you requesting? Full arrears plus interest, attorney's fees, and a wage garnishment order for future payments. Your Honor, Marcus said desperately, I'm on unemployment. If you garnish that, I can't pay my mortgage. Perhaps you should have considered that before requesting full custody and then defaulting on your obligations. She signed several papers. I'm ordering full payment of arrears within 90 days. If you can't pay in full, you'll pay $500 monthly until satisfied, in addition to your ongoing $100 to $800 obligation. That's $23,000 monthly total. I can't pay that on unemployment. Then I suggest you find employment, Mr. Chen. I'm also ordering a wage garnishment for any future income, including unemployment benefits. You'll pay 50% of your net income toward child support until the arrears are satisfied. 50%? How am I supposed to live? The same way Ms. Chen did when you were paying her $500 a month for 3 children. The judge's voice was ice. Motion granted, bailiff, next case. I walked out of the courthouse into bright sunshine. Marcus caught up with me in the parking lot. Lily, please, I'm begging you, I'm going to lose my house. Then sell it. I have nowhere else to go. You should have thought of that. What do you want from me? His voice cracked. Haven't I lost enough? You have everything. The kids, your job, your perfect little life. I have the life I built, I corrected. The same life I could have had years ago if you'd just been a decent co-parent. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry I was a shit husband and a shit father. I'm sorry I filed for custody to hurt you. I'm sorry for all of it. Please, just give me a break. Drop the arrears. Let me catch up. I looked at him, really looked. Saw the desperation, the fear, the genuine regret. In my first life, I would have given in. Would have said yes, let it go, taken the moral high ground. But I died alone in that life. exhausted, broke, and alone. "No," I said. "You made your choices. Live with them." I got in my car and drove away. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Zoe. "Mom, Dad's losing the house." I pulled over. "What?" "He can't pay the mortgage anymore. Sienna left him. He says we have to move in with Grandma and Grandpa." Marcus's parents lived in a tiny 2-bedroom condo in Tacoma. 3 kids, Marcus and his elderly parents in 2 bedrooms. "When?" "Next month. Mom, I don't want to move. All my friends are here." "You're not going to move, honey. But if Dad loses the house, that's his problem, not yours. Your life doesn't have to change because he made bad choices." "But he's my dad. And I'm your mom, and you live with me. You'll still see him every other weekend. Where he lives during that time is up to him." She was quiet for a long moment. "You're really not going to help him?" "No, baby, I'm not." "That's kind of cold." "Maybe, or maybe it's holding him accountable." "He's going to hate you forever." "He's going to blame me forever," I corrected. "He'll hate me for not fixing the mess he made, but that's not my job anymore." Another pause. "Do you hate him?" Did I? I examined my feelings carefully. "No, I don't hate him, but I don't trust him, and I don't owe him anything. He spent years taking advantage of me, and when I finally set boundaries, he called me vindictive. So, no, I don't hate him, but I don't feel responsible for him either." "That's really sad," Zoe said softly. "It is," I agreed. "It's sad that it came to this, but it didn't have to. He had chances to do better, and he chose not to take them." Marcus lost the house, moved in with his parents, started driving for Uber to supplement his unemployment. The garnishment ate half of everything he made. He showed up for his weekends, but barely. The kids said he seemed checked out, depressed. I suggested he go to therapy. He said he couldn't afford it. I didn't offer to pay. A year after the custody modification, 2 years after the divorce, I got a text from Sienna. I left him. I thought you should know he's not doing well. Like, really not well? That's unfortunate. Is that all you have to say? What do you want me to say, Sienna? You both made choices. Those choices had consequences. We made mistakes. We're sorry. Apologies don't pay back child support. You're just as bad as he said you were. I blocked her number without responding. That weekend, when Marcus dropped the kids off, I asked him to come in. "What's this about?" He looked wary. "Sit down." He did, perched on the edge of my couch like he might run. "The kids told me you're struggling," I said. "I'm fine." "Marcus, I know you're living with your parents. I know you're driving for Uber. I know you're barely keeping your head above water. So you want to gloat?" "No, I want to make sure you understand why this is happening." He laughed bitterly. "I understand perfectly. You wanted revenge?" "I wanted fairness. There's a difference." "Fairness? You're bankrupting me. The state formula is bankrupting you. The same formula you said was fine when you were paying $500 a month. The same system you manipulated by hiding income. The same court you dragged me to when you filed for full custody." I leaned forward. "Marcus, I didn't do this to you. You did this to yourself." "I made mistakes." "You made calculated choices. You lied about your income. You filed for custody. You didn't want just to hurt me. You spent years paying the bare minimum while living well above your means. And when I finally had the same leverage you did, you couldn't handle it. So this is payback. This is natural consequences." I stood up. "You spent years thinking you were smarter than the system, that you could manipulate custody and support and get away with it. You couldn't. That's not my fault." "I have nothing left," he said quietly. "You took everything." "I took what the court said you owed, same as you did to me." I walked to the door. "The difference is, I survived it. I'm not sure you will." It sounded harsh saying it out loud. Maybe it was harsh, but it was also true. He left without another word. That night I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about Marcus living in his parents' condo, about the kids seeing their father broken, about whether I'd gone too far. I called Janet in the morning. "I need advice, not legal advice. Personal advice." "Okay." Am I wrong? For holding him to the same standard he held me to? She was quiet for a moment. Do you remember what you looked like 2 years ago? Yes. Why? You were barely functional. You'd lost weight, you were exhausted, you were drowning. And Marcus was fine. Better than fine. He was thriving. I remember. He didn't care that you were struggling. He didn't offer help. He didn't think, maybe $500 a month for 3 kids isn't enough. He just took. He took your energy, your money, your time, your youth. He took and took until there was nothing left. And now I'm doing the same thing. No, now you're enforcing the rules. The same rules that applied to you. It's not your fault he can't handle what you handled for years. But the kids have one stable parent. You. That's more than they had before. She was right. I knew she was right. But it still felt heavy. The months continued. Marcus kept paying, kept struggling, kept showing up hollow-eyed and exhausted to his weekends. The kids asked about him less, stopped expecting much from those visits, started treating my place as their real home and his as just somewhere they went sometimes. It hurt to watch, but I remembered my first life. Remembered being the exhausted one, the struggling one, the one who gave everything and got nothing back. Remembered dying alone. One night, Emma crawled into my bed. She was 9 now, too old for this, but I didn't turn her away. Mama? Yeah, baby? Is it our fault Dad is sad? My heart clenched. No, sweetheart, absolutely not. But if we weren't born, he wouldn't have to pay you money, and he could keep his house. Emma, look at me. I turned so we were face to face. You are not responsible for adult problems. Dad and I made choices that led to where we are now. You didn't make those choices. You didn't ask to be born, and you don't owe anyone anything for existing. Do you understand? But he's sad because of us. He's sad because of choices he made. Not you. Never you. Do you promise? I promise. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. All 3 of you. And if Dad can't see that, if he's too focused on money to appreciate his kids, that's his failure, not yours. She snuggled closer. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby. So much. After she fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Was this worth it? The revenge, the satisfaction of watching him struggle the way I had? Was it worth my kids seeing their father broken? I didn't have an answer. The 2-year anniversary of the divorce came and went. Marcus was still paying, still struggling, still showing up for his weekends. And then he got a job. Not a great job, some mid-level position at a tech startup, but it was steady. Salary of $85,000, better than unemployment. The wage garnishment kicked in immediately. Between current support and arrears repayment, they took 60% of his paycheck. His first week at the new job, he called me. I can't do this. Can't do what? This. Living on 40% of my pay. I'm still at my parents' place. I'm eating ramen. I can't afford to take the kids anywhere. You're still $12,000 in arrears, I pointed out. Once that's paid off, it'll just be the regular support. That's still $100 to $800 a month. That's the formula. Lily, please, I'm drowning. I can't breathe. I wake up every morning wishing I hadn't. The words stopped me cold. Marcus, are you okay? No, I'm not okay. I haven't been okay in 2 years. I lost my house, my girlfriend, my savings. I see my kids every other weekend, and I can't even afford to take them to a movie. I'm 40 years old living with my parents. I have nothing. You have your kids. Do I? They barely talk to me anymore. Emma flinches when I get frustrated. Zoe rolls her eyes at everything I say. Ryan just wants to go back to your place. Then be better, I said, and hated how cold I sounded. Be the dad they need. Stop focusing on the money and focus on them. How can I do that when I'm this stressed about money? I did it for 7 years. You're so fucking self-righteous. I'm realistic. You wanted this fight, Marcus. You fired the first shot. Don't be mad that I fired back. I'm done fighting. He sounded defeated. I just want it to stop. Then pay off the arrears. File for a reduction if your income changes. Stop acting like a victim when you're just dealing with consequences. Consequences, he repeated bitterly. That's all this is to you? Just consequences? What else would it be? Revenge, payback, cruelty. I'm enforcing court orders? You're destroying me. I'm holding you accountable. But even as I said it, I wondered if there was a difference. That weekend, Marcus didn't show up for his visitation. Didn't call, didn't text, just didn't come. The kids were disappointed, but not surprised. He probably forgot, Zoe said. He didn't forget, honey. He's going through a tough time. So we're just not important? You're the most important. Always. Sometimes adults struggle with their own problems and mess up. It's not okay, but it happens. I texted Marcus. The kids were expecting you, no response. I called, went to voicemail. A cold feeling settled in my stomach. I called his parents. His mother answered. Mrs. Chen, this is Lily. Is Marcus there? Oh, Lily. Her voice was tight. He's in the hospital. The world tilted. What? What happened? It was a suicide attempt. Pills. His father found him this morning. The phone slipped in my hand. He's alive. Stable, but Lily... She was crying now. He left a note. It said he couldn't take it anymore, that you destroyed him. I sat down hard on the couch. The kids were in the next room, arguing about what movie to watch, oblivious. It's not your fault, Mrs. Chen said, but she didn't sound convinced. He's been struggling. We knew he was depressed, but the money, the stress, the child support, it broke him. I just enforced the court order, I whispered. I know you did, but Lily, I'm asking you, as a grandmother, as someone who cares about those children, can you find mercy? Can you give him room to breathe? Could I? I thought about Marcus in a hospital bed, thought about Emma asking if it was their fault, thought about my kids growing up knowing their father had tried to kill himself because of money he owed their mother, thought about my first life, dying alone because I'd given everything. I need to think, I said. Please think quickly. He's being held for 72 hours, but after that, I don't know what he'll do. I hung up and sat very still. The kids chose a movie. I made popcorn on autopilot, sat between them on the couch, trying to focus on the screen while my mind raced. Mercy or justice, compassion or consequences. Let him breathe or hold him accountable. After the kids went to bed, I pulled up the court documents. The arrears balance, $8,200. The monthly obligation, $1,800. The garnishment order, in effect, until the arrears were paid. I could file to forgive the arrears, could request a reduction in support, could ask the judge to ease up, could save him, or I could do nothing, could let the system run its course, could watch him struggle the way I had struggled, could punish him. I opened my laptop and started typing. The next morning, I called Janet. I need you to file something. What? A motion to modify support and forgive half the arrears. Silence. Lily, are you sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Can I ask why? Because he's in the hospital. Because my kids are going to lose their father if I don't. Because... I took a breath. Because I don't want to be the reason he dies. You're not. I am. Maybe he made the choices that got him here, but I'm the one enforcing the consequences. And if those consequences kill him, that's on me. That's not how it works. Janet, please. Just file it. She did. The hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks out. In the meantime, I visited Marcus in the hospital. He looked terrible. Pale, thin, with IV lines running into his arms. Lily, his voice was hoarse. Hi. Come to gloat? Come to talk. I sat in the visitor's chair. I filed a motion to reduce your support and forgive half the arrears. His eyes widened. What? You heard me. Why? Because I don't want my kids growing up knowing their father killed himself over money, because despite everything, I don't actually want you to die. I paused, and because I think we both know you've learned your lesson. I don't deserve, probably not, but I'm doing it anyway. I stood up. Get better, Marcus. Your kids need you. The motion was granted. Support reduced to $1,200 monthly. Half the arrears forgiven, the rest on a payment plan of $200 a month. Marcus kept his job, moved into a small apartment, started seeing a therapist. The kids' relationship with him improved slowly. He was more present, less stressed, actually engaged during his weekends. And I was okay with it. Not happy, exactly. There was still resentment, still anger at the years he'd put me through. But I'd made my point. He'd suffered. He'd learned. And more importantly, my kids hadn't lost their father. 3 years after the divorce, a year after Marcus's hospitalization, I was cleaning out old files and found the letter I'd written myself. The one from my first life, written in the days before I died. I'd forgotten about it, but seeing it now, I opened it with shaking hands. If I could do it all over again, it read, I would fight harder. I would demand more. I would stop sacrificing myself for people who don't appreciate it. I would choose me, but I would also choose mercy. Because the hardest thing about being the wronged party is knowing when to stop fighting back. I hope you figure that out. I hope you're happier. I hope you're free. Love, Lily. I read it 3 times, then carefully folded it back up. I'd done it. I'd fought harder, demanded more, chosen myself, and I was happier. I was free, but I'd also learned mercy. Not at the cost of myself, never again, but at the cost of my revenge. It was enough. It was more than enough. That night, I took the kids out for ice cream. We sat in the sunshine laughing at stupid jokes, and I thought about how far we'd come. Emma was confident, now no longer anxious. Ryan was doing well in school. Zoe was planning for college. And Marcus was alive, present, trying. We weren't a family anymore, not the way we'd been, but we were something. Co-parents, allies maybe, working together instead of against each other. It wasn't the ending I'd imagined when I woke up reborn, but it was the ending we needed. Emma's ice cream dripped on her shirt. Oops. It's okay, baby. Accidents happen. She grinned at me, chocolate on her nose, and I thought, this is why I came back. Not for revenge, not for justice, not even for myself. For them. Always for them. And that was enough.